And Moshe said, Hear, O Yisrael, Yahweh your Elohim, Yahweh is one, and you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart. And you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom to everyone worshiping with us at home, wherever you are. It's a blessing to be here today, amen. And it's better than being out there today for a lot of reasons. For a lot of reasons. The name of the message today is it's called the Porky, Mistress of Sam Hain. Well, it is. The Porky, Mistress of Sam Hain. Now, the reason for the name of this message is because I wanted to address something that's going on around us tonight. All right? Because tonight is what? It's Halloween. It's it's the seventh day of the week. You know, as far as them out there are concerned, today's Halloween. You know, and it's very important to them. All right, you know, and some of our viewers that are going to be tuning in and seeing this are just coming out of what they've always known. All right. And I'm not just preaching to the choir. I'm preaching to those folks that may be coming out. But even the choir needs to rehearse every now and then. Amen? Amen. All right. Have you heard the old adage that you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig? All right. Now, so everyone's familiar with that one. How about this one? Do you know the adage about the elephant in the living room? Everybody? The elephant in the living room, that's what you say when there's something that's terribly wrong that's going on. People know there's something wrong, but everybody acts like there's nothing going on. So nobody will say anything about the elephant in the living room. All right? Well, what we have here is an elephant-sized pig. That's what we have. We have an elephant-sized pig. And people don't just act like they can't see this elephant-sized pig. All right? They embrace it and they love it. And they'll throw big old Mary Kay or Avon parties for the pig. All right? So adorn it to the max and put all kind of lipstick and eye paint and everything on it. Put it on the kids too. Now, the Satanists and the Wiccans and other folks that are self-identifying as pagans. You hear that word, self-identifying? All right. Folks that are self-identifying as pagans don't have to dress up the pig. That's right. They don't have to dress up the pig. They readily admit what it is, and they worship it openly. All right? Now, people who profess to be followers of the Scriptures, though, have a different challenge. Or they have a challenge. These others don't have a challenge. They just do it. All right? And I'm primarily talking about the majority of Christianity when I say this. All right? Now, there may be some folks that claim to be in this walk that get involved in it. But if they are, same thing applies. All right? And see, they really aren't putting lipstick on the pig so much as they're trying to they're becoming the pig. Okay? They're putting the lipstick on themselves, trying to make it look like what they're doing is acceptable. And doing it in such a way that they become one with Halloween and the practices that go along with it. And that's why I call this the Porky, Mistress of Sam Hain. Now, what is Sam Hain? Well, I'll get to that in a minute. But it is curious to me why so many Christians, and rightly so, but why so many Christians are upset about the direction that this nation is going in with recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling regarding same-sex marriage, but they will take their children out to party with the devil and not give that a second thought. All right. Anyone doing any honest research on the roots very quickly learns that this is rooted and very ancient, and oftentimes very sadistic, pagan customs. And it's not blessed by the word of Elohim. It is not. Now, it's spelt Samhain, all right, in our letters, but it is pronounced Samhain. All right, that's what the name of this is. And Samhain is an old Celtic festival of, among other things, a festival of the dead. Other things from which all this stuff is about: devils, and witches, and ghosts, and goblins, and wizards, etc., 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 is from where these things come. All right? Now, so I have to ask this question: should we be partying with the devil? I don't know. The answer is, for me, is no. The answer for me is no. We shouldn't be partying with the devil. All right? Should we teach it to our children? What do you think? No, because what the Shema says is we're supposed to be teaching the commands of Elohim to our children. All right? And that's not the commands of Elohim. All right? Should we be making light of witchcraft and demons and zombies and the living dead and vampires drinking blood and all this kind of stuff? Should we be making light of that? It's very common though. Turn with me to Exodus. I want to thank Candace. She put a little something up today, and I used some of the verses that she put up today about these. Exodus 22. I'm not going to tell you the verse yet, but scroll down a little ways. Getting close. Exodus 22, verse 18. Scroll. Do not allow a practitioner of witchcraft to what? To live. But we can have fun playing like we're one, right? All right, Leviticus 7. YHWH 7, going to be on page 110, starting verses 26. All right, so we're down to witches. All right, verse 26. And do not eat any blood in any of your dwellings, of bird or of beast. Any being who eats any blood, even that being shall be cut off from his people. So if we're not supposed to be drinking blood of animals, what about going around and pretending like we're human blood suckers? And I'm not talking about being dressed up as a giant tick either. Which would be bad enough, you're still an unclean animal, right? But all right, so that addresses vampires, Leviticus 19. Verse 31. Page 125. Do not turn to mediums, and do not seek after spiritists to be defiled by them. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. All right? So we don't need to be looking to warlocks and witches and crystal balls and all that kind of stuff. In Deuteronomy 18. Devarim 18. Page 205. Verse 9. When you come into the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, do not learn to do according to the, what's that next word? Abominations of those Gentiles. Let not one be found among you who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices divination, or a user of magic, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For whoever does these are an abomination to Yahweh, and because of these abominations, Yahweh your Elohim drives them out from before you. All right? So, but it's okay to have your children dress up like these things and go around pretending that they're doing these things and getting candy for it. You know, that's one of the ways child molesters will kidnap a kid, offer him some candy. It's pretty easy. Now, there are churches all over town, and our town is going to be like your town, or the towns of folks visiting with us on Skype. There's churches all over our town who are having makeup parties for Sam Hain's pagan pig. So it's put a pretty face on it. All right? And they'll call them all kinds of pretty pig names, like Trunk or Treat. I can still hear the squeal. All right? I can still hear the squeal in that one, Trunk or Treat. All right? At least one of them's having a fall festival. Okay, one of them's having a fall festival. I presume that they're having a, quote, fall festival so they don't have to call it Halloween. Right? But they are still having a costume contest, and they're still having a pumpkin carving contest. Just saying. Put a little lipstick on that pig. You see? Put a little bit of lipstick on it. One of them says, no scary costumes. I'm sitting there thinking, well, then I guess you couldn't dress up as the messenger of Elohim with your sword drawn, like the one that Bilam or that Joshua saw. You couldn't dress up from something like that in the Scripture. That'd be scary. That ought to be. I'll tell you something else you can't dress up as. You wouldn't be able to dress up as a copy of the Scriptures and walk around, because that ought to scare the hell out of them. I mean, that right there. Yeah, that's right. And one of them, you might go to jail. Then you'd scare everybody in there. You know what else? They couldn't dress up as Yahshua with a whip of cords. Wow. One of them's got one called Truth or Treat. All right, now, aside from the fact of what they teach all week, every week, what their doctrine is, if the thing's going on where what they're doing is they're giving folks an opportunity so that they go somewhere and not be involved in it at all, so that they don't have to deal with the doorbell ringing and all that stuff all night long, and they could have a wholesome just get together, a worship service or whatever. That's one thing. But I understand that the sign out front is black with white writing dribbling down saying Truth or Treat. So I still got a sneaking suspicion that we're dealing with just a little more makeup, a little paint on the pig, a little paint on the pig. 1 John chapter 2. 1 John chapter 2. We're going to be on page 1183. The first verse is 3. First, I'm sorry. I was in 2 Peter. 1 John is page 1185, chapter 2. And verse 3 says, and by this we know that we know Him. The guy that I was talking about with the whip of cords. If we guard His commands, the one who says, I know Him, and does not guard His commands is a what? A liar, and the truth is not in him. Right? But whoever guards His word, truly the love of Elohim has been perfected in him, and by this we know that we are in Him. The one who says he stays in Him ought himself also to walk even as he walked. Now, so I got to ask you this question. Can you imagine YHWH dressing children up like that and teaching them to participate in this quote, holiday tonight? I can't imagine him doing that. If he wouldn't walk down the street doing that with the kids, how can I walk as he walked and go walking down the street with the kids doing that? I mean, all right? That's a good question, right? Would YHWH do that? If YHWH would not do that, then why would someone who fancies themselves as one of his followers, even if they don't have the names right, okay, even if they don't have a lot of that stuff right, if they regard themselves as one of his followers, why would you do such a thing? One needs to ask oneself this: do I really believe that Yahweh's real? Do I really believe that? If you really believe Yahweh's real, then you really need to believe what Yahweh says He'll really do. Okay? All right? Is Yahweh real? Do I believe that Yahweh means what He says? All right? You know, I hope you do, but if you believe that He'll do what He says, then why would you be doing this? All right, next question. Does Yahweh think that all these little children dressed up for a pagan festival which celebrates the Day of the Dead, which He condemns and says that you're not supposed to learn the way of the heathens, are just as cute as they can be in their little costumes, being led around by their parents? You think Yahweh's looking at that as that being a sweet thing, you know? Maybe He's going, what was I thinking when I told them not to participate in the way of the heathen? You know? Do you believe He is sovereign and means what He says and changes not, or do you think He's just a wishy-washy, spineless, and inconsistent as the average individual is? He knows our heart. That's right, yeah. Well, we don't do it for that reason. We do it for the children. Because it's what? Fun. Oh, y'all already knew what was coming, didn't you? Because it's fun. Listen, you are not doing it for the children because it's fun. You're doing it to the children because it's satanic. Okay? Somebody's got you tricked. Somebody's got you tricked into thinking you're doing it for the children. You're doing it to the children. You know what? You're spiritually molesting them. Ooh-wee. I know He didn't say that. That's what it is. See, just because something is fun doesn't make it right. You ever heard the knockout game? All right, you know. Somebody's not having fun in that. Somebody is. All right. Jeremiah 17:9. We're just going to read one verse there. Going to be on... Oops. Going to be on page 483. Verse 9. The heart is crooked above all and desperately sick. Who shall know it? Okay? There's a lot of desperately sick things that people find delight in. And just because it's fun does not mean that Yahweh smiles upon it. When we seek Yahweh's face, we had better hope we find it turned which way? Up, not down. That's right. Proverbs 14. Proverbs 14, verse 7. Leave the presence of a foolish man, for you shall not perceive the lips of knowledge. Do you think maybe you might be dealing with that when somebody's trying to tell you all the reasons why it's okay? Okay. The wisdom of the clever is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. Fools scoff at guilt, But among the straight there is delight. The heart knows its own bitterness, and no stranger shares its joy. The house of the wrong is destroyed, but the tent of the straight flourishes. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Okay? So we got a choice we can make here. Which one of these do we want to be on? All right? Proverbs 22. Proverbs 22, verse 5. Thorns, snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards his life keeps away from them. Train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he turns not away from it. You know, that's one of the reasons why this perpetuates. That's one of the reasons why it keeps going on and on. If you were raised up in it and you have broken out of it, you're the exception. You know, I feel a whole lot better about being an exception, you know. But you are the exception. It's one of those things that if you get to the children, you can just keep it going and keep it going. Matthew 18. I'm going to start reading in verse 1. At that time the taught ones came to YHWH, saying, Who then is the greatest in the reign of the heavens? And YHWH called a little child to him, and set him in their midst, and said, Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become as little children, you shall by no means enter into the reign of the heavens. That might be a reason why Satan needs to get to them. Get them corrupted. Get them corrupted early. Whoever then humbles himself as a little child is the greatest in the reign of the heavens, and whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to stumble, it's better for him that a millstone be hung around his neck, and that he be drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe to the world because of stumbling blocks, for it is necessary that stumbling blocks come, but woe to that man by whom the stumbling block comes. And if your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away from you, for it is better for you to enter into life lame or crippled rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be thrown into the everlasting fire. And if your eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out and throw it away from you. It is better for you to enter into life with 1 eye rather than having 2 eyes to be thrown into the fire of Gehenna. See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I say to you that in the heavens, their messengers always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. For the Son of Adam has come to save what was lost. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, would he not leave the 99 on the mountain, going to seek for the one that is straying? And if he should find it, truly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Thus, it is not the desire of your Father who is in the heavens that one of these little ones should be lost. How are these little ones not going to be lost when they're having so much fun? Now, Yahweh's not against kids having fun. He's against children being led away in the ways of unrighteousness. All right? Mark chapter 10. We're going to start reading verse 13. And it says, And they were bringing little children to him to touch them. But the taught ones were rebuking those who were bringing them. And when YHWH saw it, he was much displeased and said to them, Let the children come to me, and do not forbid them, for such is the reign of Elohim. Truly I say to you, whoever does not receive the reign of Elohim as a little child shall certainly not enter into it. and taking them up in his arms, laying his hands on them, he blessed them. Right? I would say that our Messiah is very protective of the little children. Amen. All right, you know, what do you think? Is it not an example of passing them through the fire to Moloch or Satan? I want to read from an article from the Christian Post. Yeah, you're gonna appreciate this in a disgusting way. Yeah, I think that's right. You're gonna be disgusted by this because this was an article that was written about Kirk Cameron and his movie that came out. It says Kirk Cameron's. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit where I have to. Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas hits the theaters on November 14th. I think that was a year or two ago, reminding Christians of the biblical relevance of Christmas time, with explanations for the Christmas tree. Explanations now for the Christmas tree, Santa Claus, and presents. The film helps put the Christ back in Christmas. Furthermore, Saving Christmas attempts to debunk theories that Christmas is still rooted in pagan traditions. Notice it says still. Okay, what has it been cut off and moved? All right. In a recent interview, Cameron addressed the same theories as they are applied to Halloween, clarifying why Christians should have the biggest Halloween party on the block. The real origins have a lot to do with All Saints' Day. This is Kirk talking here. And All Hallows' Eve. The actor told the Christian Post, if you go back to old church calendars, especially Catholic calendars, they recognize the holiday All Saints' Day, with All Hallows' Eve the day before, when they would remember the dead. That's all tied into Halloween. Moreover, the unstoppable star went on to cite what he believes to be the meaning behind dressing up in frightening costumes on Halloween, clarifying the meaning of October 31st. When you go out on Halloween and see all the people dressed in costumes and see someone in a great big bobble-headed Obama costume with great big ears and an Obama face, are they honoring him or poking fun? Sounds like a loaded question, doesn't it? All right, Cameron asked. They're poking fun at him, the actor said, answering his own question before comparing the concept to costumes to early Christianity. Early on, Christians would dress up in costumes as the devil, ghosts, goblins, and witches, precisely to make the point that those things were defeated and overthrown by the resurrected, quote, Jesus Christ, Cameron continued. The costumes poke fun at the fact that the devil and other evils are publicly humiliated by Christ at His resurrection. Did y'all ever learn that when you were in church? Did they ever tell you? I never heard that either. All right. That's what the Scriptures say. That's what he says. I'm just reading what he said. Okay. All right. The costumes poke fun at the fact that the devil and other evils were publicly humiliated by, quote, Christ at His resurrection. That's what the Scriptures say, that He publicly humiliated the devil when He triumphed over power and the principality and put them under His feet. Over time, you get some pagans who want to go. This is our day, high holy day of satanic church. That this is all about death. But Christians have always known since the first century that death was defeated and that the grave was overwhelmed, that ghosts, goblins, devils are foolish has-beens who used to be in power but not anymore. That's the perspective Christians should have. Big bucket of paint on that pig. All right. Lastly, the fireproof star urged Christians to use Halloween as an opportunity to inform others about God with the biggest celebration around. You should have the biggest party on your block, and you should have the reasons for everyone to come to your house and before anyone else's house because yours is the most fun, he told CP, the Christian publication. Halloween gives you a great opportunity to show how Christians celebrate the day that death was defeated, and you can give them gospel tracts and tell them the story of how every ghost, goblin, witch, and demon was trounced the day Jesus rose from the grave. Clearly, no Christians ought to be glorifying death because death was defeated, and that was the point of All Hallows Eve. I really didn't clean it up. I went ahead and read it straight. That's a whole bunch of hooey, y'all mean? That is a whole bunch of hooey. And you know what? He'd get up there and say that with a straight face.
His last statement just totally undermined his whole argument right there.
Shouldn't be glorifying death after he sat and did all that stuff. Yeah, no, Matt's back here doing this, y'all, because he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. And he is. I thought he was a fish. You know, this is Candace said if she was a Christian, she'd love him, and you know what? I bet they do. Because they've got somebody tickling their ears. Tickle, 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 tickle. Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. You know? And they don't realize that they're blind and pitiful and naked. Now, one of the things, turn to John 16. John chapter 16. One of the things that what we're going to read about here in John 16 isn't talking about Halloween, but it is relevant in that do you want to make some of these folks angry? Tell them the truth. All right? Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth, and they are going to get upset at you. All right? Because you're legalist or blah, 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 or what all that Kirk Cameron just said. 16 verse 1. These words I have spoken to you so that you do not stumble. They shall put you out of the congregations. Do you think if you start talking about this stuff, they'll put you out? Yep. But an hour is coming when everyone who kills you shall think he is rendering service to Elohim. Now that's scary, you know it? But look what Yahshua said. But I have said these words to you so that when the hour comes, you remember that I told them to you, and these words I did not say to you at the beginning, for I was with you. There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. People have still got hearts just as wicked as they were then, and there are people that will be just as deceived. Now, check this out. I think this is interesting. 1 Samuel chapter 28. We're going to be starting verse 1. 1 Samuel 28. Going to be on page 310 in the old ISR. And I'm kind of like, if you don't think Yahweh's real, just live it up. You know, have a big time. You're going to pay for it later. I mean, you know. You can't make people believe. Verse 1. 1 Samuel 28. And it came to be in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies for battle to fight with Israel. And Achish said to David, you know, of course, that you are to go out with me in the army, you and your men. And David said to Achish, very well, you shall know what your servant should do. And Achish said to David, very well, I make you one of my chief guardians. And Shemuel had died. All right, you see that? All right. And Shemuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in Ramah in his own city. And Shaul had put away the mediums and the spiritists from the land. All right, that's a good thing Shaul did. And the Philistines were gathered and came and encamped at Shunem. And Shaul gathered all Israel, and they encamped at Gilboa. And when Shaul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. And Shaul inquired of Yahweh, but Yahweh did not answer him, neither by dreams or by Urim or by the prophets. Shaul then said to his servants, you remember what happened when Shaul didn't wait for Shemuel to come? You know, when Shemuel told him to wait for him, and Shaul went ahead and slaughtered all those animals, and they didn't put everybody under the ban, and he lost the rain. Remember that? Keep that in mind, because see, here's old Shaul. He's still not getting an answer quick enough. Shaul then said, verse 7, to his servants, find me a woman who is a medium, not a small or a large. Find me. Sorry. It's serious business. All right. Find me a woman who is a medium to go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, look, there is a woman who is a medium at Endor. And Shaul disguised himself and put on other garments and went. And he and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night, and he said, please divine for me and bring up for me the one I shall name. But the woman said to him, look, you know what Shaul has done, how he's cut off the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Why then do you lay a snare for my life to put me to death? And Shaul swore to her by Yahweh, saying, as Yahweh lives, no punishment comes upon you for this matter. Notice it said no punishment comes upon you. And the woman said, whom do I bring up for you? So he said, bring up Shemuel for me. And when the woman saw Shemuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spoke to Shaul, saying, why have you deceived me? You yourself are Shaul. And the sovereign said to her, do not be afraid. What did you see? And the woman said to Shaul, I saw a spirit come up out of the earth. And he said to her, what is his form? And she said, an old man is coming up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Shaul knew that it was Shemuel, and he bowed with his face to the ground and did obeisance. And Shemuel said to Shaul, why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? And Shaul answered, I am deeply distressed, for the Philistines are fighting against me, and Elohim has turned aside from me and does not answer me anymore, neither by prophets nor by dreams. So I have called you to reveal to me what I should do. And Shemuel said, and why do you ask me, seeing Yahweh has turned aside from you and has become your enemy? And Yahweh has done for himself as he spoke by me. For Yahweh has torn the rein out of your hand and given it to your neighbor, to David, because you did not obey the voice of Yahweh, nor execute his burning wrath upon Amalek. Therefore, Yahweh has done this matter to you today. Further, Yahweh also gives Yisrael with you into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons are with me. Man, that is not good, all right? Yahweh also gives the army, that also ought to let you know something about that. If old Shemuel was up in heaven, wouldn't be a bad deal, would it? All right? He was in the grave, all right? Yahweh also gives the army of Israel into the hand of the Philistines, verse 20. And immediately Shaul fell on the ground his complete length, and greatly feared because of the words of Shemuel. And there was no strength in him, and he had eaten no food all day or all night. And the woman came to Shaul and saw that he had been greatly disturbed, and said to him, see, your female servant has obeyed your voice, and I have put my life in my hands, and has listened to your words which you spoke to me. And now, please listen to the voice of your female servant too, and let me set a piece of bread before you and eat, so that you have strength when you go on your way. But he refused and said, I am not going to eat. But his servants, together with the woman, urged him, and he listened to their voice. So he rose from the ground and sat on the bed. And the woman had a fatted calf in the house, and she quickly slaughtered it, and she took flour and kneaded it and baked unleavened bread from it. And she brought it before Shaul and his servants, and they ate and rose up and went away that night. Now, turn to 1 Chronicles chapter 10. This is relevant. Going to be on page 855 because we're going to start reading in verse 11. Huh?
That would be 856.
What did I say? I beg your pardon. 856. 1 Chronicles chapter 10, verse 11. And all YHWH Gilead heard of all that the Philistines had done to who? Shaul. And all the brave men arose and took the body of Shaul. Oh, you remember what Shemuel said to him? And the bodies of his sons, and they brought them to Yabesh and buried their bones under the tamarisk tree at Yabesh and fasted 7 days. Thus Shaul died for his trespass, which he had trespassed against Yahweh, because he did not guard the word of Yahweh, and also for asking a medium for to make inquiry, and did not inquire of Yahweh. So he put him to death and turned the reign over to Dawid, the son of Yeshai. Shaul died for the very thing that people are thinking is fun on Halloween. All right? Shaul really died. Shaul was really scared, and Yahweh's word came to him, and Yahweh came through like He said, and Shaul and his sons were killed. And it's for doing the very same kind of thing, dabbling in the dead, and in ghosts and mediums and all that stuff. Okay, this isn't something to play with. It's not. It's not. Deuteronomy 12. Devarim chapter 12. Starting in verse 29. Deuteronomy 12, verse 29. When Yahweh your Elohim does cut off from before you the nations which you go to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, guard yourself that you are not, what is that word? Ensnared. What does ensnared mean? Trapped. You're trapped. To follow them after they are destroyed from before you, and that you do not inquire about their mighty ones, saying, how did these nations serve their mighty ones? And let me do so too. Do not do so to Yahweh your Elohim. Kind of like what Kirk Cameron was saying. Just saying. All right. Do not do so to Yahweh your Elohim, for every abomination which Yahweh, what's that next word? Hates, they have done to their mighty ones, for they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their mighty ones. All the words I am commanding you, guard to do it, do not add to nor take away from. Is that not pretty clear? What do you think? Is that not pretty clear? You know, I don't know how one does that with a clear conscience. It is in the Old Testament. It sure is. I know. But you know, I had a friend one time, and he said, it's all old to me. It's all old to me. You know, it's kind of like my buddy Ron asked. I might get the question wrong, but what did the death of Yahshua do to clean up the flesh of a pig? What did it do? And by the same token, Yahweh still doesn't want to. He says He hates it. I believe if He's the same, if Yahshua is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and Yahweh says, I change not, if He hates it then, He hates it now. I've said before, he probably didn't get anger management counseling. He probably didn't get a 12-step program or some group therapy or something. He probably still hates it. Amen. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Did we read this last week? A couple weeks ago. That's right. We talked about it last week. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. We're going to start reading verse 1. As for the coming of our Master, YHWH Messiah, and our gathering together to Him, we ask you, brothers, do not become easily unsettled in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us, as if the day of Yahweh has come. Let no one deceive you in any way, because the falling away is to come first, and the man of lawlessness is to be revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as Elohim in the dwelling place of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim. Do you not remember that I told you this while I was still with you? And now you know what restrains for him to be revealed in his time. For the secret of lawlessness is already at work, only until he who now restrains comes out of the midst. And then the lawless one shall be revealed, whom the Master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and bring to naught with the manifestation of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power and signs and wonders of falsehood, and with all deceit of unrighteousness. It's Old Testament. That's deceit of unrighteousness, amen? All right. In those perishing, because they did not receive the love of the truth in order for them to be saved. For this reason, Elohim sends a working delusion for them to believe the falsehood, in order that all should be judged who did not believe what? The truth, but have delighted in what? The unrighteousness. But we ought to give thanks to Elohim always for you, brothers, beloved by the Master, because Elohim from the beginning chose you to be saved in set apartness of spirit and belief in the truth, unto which He called you by our good news for the obtaining of the esteem of our Master, YHWH Messiah. So then, brothers, stand fast and hold the traditions which you were taught, whether by word or by letter, and our Master YHWH Himself, and our Elohim and Father, who has loved us and given us everlasting encouragement and good expectation through favor, encourage your hearts and establish you in every good word and work. See, I think that's what we're dealing with to a great extent. There's a lot of people that don't care, and then there's a lot of people who have entered into the working delusion because they did not have a love of the truth, and so they believed a lie. Another example of this, I want you to look at Matthew chapter 7, from the words of our Messiah. It's more talking about that Old Testament. Matthew 7, we're going to start reading in verse 14. Because the gate is narrow and the way is hard pressed, which leads to life, and there are few who find it. But beware of false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are savage wolves. By their fruits you shall know them. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So every good tree yields good fruit, but a rotten tree yields wicked fruit. A good tree is unable to yield wicked fruit, and a rotten tree to yield good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. You know what, brothers and sisters? I'd be having a little trouble. I'd start worrying a little bit about telling people how set apart Halloween is now. Amen. I'd be a little worried about telling people about how kadosh Christmas is. You know, I'd be a little worried about that because Yahweh says He hates it. Yahweh says He hates it. And verse 19, every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then, by their fruits you shall know them. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. Many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name? Weren't we talking earlier today about doing good stuff? Yeah, doing trunk or treat. They say they do trunk or treat because there's so many people that saved and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera during trunk or treat. And done many mighty works in your name. And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. You know what that stuff is? It's the oldest trick in the book. For those of you that know what the oldest trick in the book is, it's coming up with a reason why if we come up with a good enough reason, it's okay to transgress the command of Yahweh. But we'll never come up with a reason that good. Amen? Right. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. Revelation 12:9 says, and the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old, called the devil. A lot of them like dress up like the devil, amen? All right. And Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. Are these people who get out and make all these excuses for trunk or treat, and these ministers who advocate and have the biggest party on the block and all that kind of stuff, are they not false prophets? Are they not teaching lawlessness? Are they not harming these little ones that YHWH said it'd be better that a millstone be tied around your neck and thrown into the sea? How do you do that? I just don't know. I just don't. Other than the delusion of the lawlessness, of the lawless. Deuteronomy 6. Your little ribbons ought to be there in your scriptures if you're using them, because that's what we were reading earlier today. Deuteronomy 6, verse 24. And it says, and Yahweh commanded us to do all these laws, to fear Yahweh our Elohim, for our good always, to keep us alive, as it is today. And it is righteousness for us when we guard to do all this command before Yahweh our Elohim as He has commanded us. And what do you suppose it's called if we say, oh, that stuff's done away with, it's just the Old Testament, we're going to dress up like the devil, and that's unrighteousness. It's unrighteousness. And Yahweh is altogether righteous, and Yahweh cannot dwell in unrighteousness. And yes, our righteousness is as filthy rags. It is. Our righteousness is as filthy rags, but a pig's an abomination. I don't care how much lipstick you put on it. Revelation chapter 22 is going to be our last thing that we're going to read together. I'm going to tell you what it says in Revelation 14:12. It says, here is the endurance of the set apart ones. Here are those guarding the commands of Elohim and the belief of YHWH Messiah. Do you realize that that's two things there? It says guarding the commands, and it doesn't say, did you notice it doesn't say the belief in YHWH Messiah? It says the belief of YHWH. In other words, you've got, yes, believe what YHWH said about Himself, etc., but have the same testimony and witness and belief of YHWH. It's a big difference. It's not what we get taught at church. What we're taught at church is, I believe in Him. Oh, yes, I believe in Him. All right? The devils believe and tremble. Thank you. And they have the belief in, not the belief of. Amen? Amen. All right? The guarding the commands of Elohim and the belief in YHWH. So, just because you say, I believe, what'd you get in that sack? Did you get any Baby Ruths? Did you get any Baby Ruths? Did you get any Raisinets to go with my popcorn? Yeah. Payday. You're always thinking about money. All right. I don't care how much you believe, you're not guarding the commands of Elohim. Amen. That's what the patience of the set apart ones is. Right? Revelation 22, verse 1. And he, oh, by the way, I think this is the chapter when it says it is done. Maybe it's 21 when it says it's done. And he showed me a river of water of life, clear as a crystal, coming from the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb, in the middle of its street, and on either side of the river was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And no longer shall there be any curse. Then the throne of Elohim and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him, and they shall see his face, and his name shall be upon their foreheads. Hallelujah. And the night shall be no more, and they shall have no need of lamp or light of the sun, because Yahweh Elohim shall give them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. And he said to me, these words are trustworthy and true, and Yahweh Elohim of the set-apart prophets has sent his messenger to show his servants what has to take place with speed. See, I am coming speedily. Blessed is he who guards the words of the prophecy of this book. And I, Yochanan, saw and heard these matters, and when I heard and saw, I fell down to worship before the feet of the messenger who showed me these matters. And he said to me, see, do not, for I am your fellow servant, and your brothers, the prophets, and of those who are guarding the words of this book. Worship Elohim. And he said to me, do not seal the words of the prophecy of this book, because the time is near. He who does wrong, let him do more wrong. He who is filthy, let him be more filthy. He who is righteous, let him be more righteous. Wow. Okay? And so far, up to that point, we didn't have believers trick or treating. We just had people who were deniers or don't care. All right? Let him be more righteous. He who is set apart, let him be more set apart. See, I am coming speedily, and my reward is with me to give to each according to his work. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are those doing what? His commands, so that the authority shall be theirs. Right now he's talking about the commands of Elohim, right? That's what he said, worship Elohim, the commands of Elohim. All right? Blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs under the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. I want to be in that city. All right? But outside, okay, these are the folks that are not in the city. All right? But outside are the dogs, and those who enchant with drugs, and those who whore, and the murderers, and idolaters, and all who love and do, what's that next word? Falsehood. I, YHWH, have sent my messenger to witness to you to these matters in the assemblies. I am the root of the offspring of Dawid, the bright and morning star, and the Spirit and the bride say, come. And he who hears, let him say, come. And he who thirsts, come. And he who desires it, take the water of life without paying. For I witness to everyone hearing the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to them, Elohim shall add to him the plagues that are written in this book. And anyone who takes away from the words of this book of this prophecy, Elohim shall take away his part from the book of life and out of the set-apart city which are written in this book. He that bears witness to these matters says, yes, I am coming speedily. Amen. Yes, come, Master YHWH. The favor of our Master YHWH Messiah be with the set-apart ones. Amen. Okay? You see, so we can't just make excuses, whether it's about Halloween or anything else. But we can't just make excuses. If we're going to be set apart, we need to be what? Need to be more set apart. If we're going to be righteous, let us be more righteous. Don't let us sit here and, you can't water it down.
Read the back of the book, don't you?
Huh? Kirk Cameron needs to read the back of the book. That's right. Listen, you can't water down the word Elohim with these waters.
Amen.
All right? These are the living waters. These are the words of Elohim. Don't fall for the trick. Okay? Don't fall for the trick, because it ain't going to be a treat. Amen? It's not going to be a treat. And don't paint yourself up and try to make it look like what you're doing is not an abomination. Don't be the Porky Mistress of Sam Hain. Yevrekeka Yahweh Vaishmareka Yair Yahweh Panavaleka Bikaneka Yasa Yahweh Panavaleka Biasim Laka Shalom. Yahweh bless you and guard you. Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you his complete contentment.